What's going on, guys? So in today's video, we're going to talk about 4 ways Flashpoint is a good idea. Now, this was supposed to be 5 ways, but I couldn't find 5 reasons why this movie would be a great idea. But this is part 2, or a continuation of my previous video, which was 5 reasons why Flashpoint is a bad idea. And remember, guys, as always, before we jump into this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. Starting with number 4, you could fix Batman. Now, this is like the most common thing when it comes to talking about the Flashpoint movie. We've talked about it a lot on this channel, but the biggest thing and the reason why I think Flashpoint is being made in the first place is so you can actually go ahead and fix your Batman problem. Quick rundown if you're new to the channel or you know nothing about the Batman drama that's going on in the movies. Basically, Ben Affleck wants out of the character and they're gonna have to recast him. The issue there is this is a connected universe, and just recasting a Batman to somebody new just seems kind of weird, so they're looking for a clever way to recast an actor that makes sense in this universe. And you can use this storyline Flashpoint where many things change because the Flash character goes back and changes a big life event of his, and it basically throws the whole world into a whirlwind, and it just gives you the ability, or the plausibility, I should say, that things like a person's face and character could change in this massive storyline that is Flashpoint. Now, if you saw one of my previous videos that was 7 ways that the DCEU could recast Batman, you know that the Flashpoint idea was my #1 on that list, and I still think it's what they're going to do, but recasting Batman isn't the reason why I think Flashpoint's a good idea. I think it's a good idea because you could actually fix the character of Batman. And what I mean by that is you can go back and change that Batman never killed anybody, because that was one of the biggest issues people had with the BVS version of Batman. Personally, I thought he was the best on-screen Batman that we've ever had, but I could have done it without the killing because I've always liked that aspect of Batman, that he has this one rule that he'll never break. But I did also understand the source material that they were pulling from, which was The Dark Knight Returns, where he is a very hardened Batman. He doesn't really have an issue with killing in that source material. Unfortunately, a lot of people that do know a little bit about Batman don't know that much detail of that. They just know that his one rule is not to kill people and that he doesn't use guns. So whether or not you like the BVS Batman, Flashpoint could essentially go back and change all of that to where he never killed ever. And you don't even need to explain this in a crazy way. You don't need to show clips from BVS and then everything's reversing and he's not killing people after all. You don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is when the Flash fixes the timeline, he goes and he talks to Bruce Wayne at the end of the story, which he does in the actual comic book, where he gives him his father's note, because if you guys know nothing about Flashpoint, his father, aka Bruce Wayne's father, is Batman in the Flashpoint storyline. And in the comic book, Thomas Wayne gives a note to the Flash to deliver to his son Bruce in this current timeline. Well, before that awesomeness happens, you can just have the Flash say like a quirky line like, "Hey Bruce, have you touched a gun and killed anybody lately?" And all you need to do is have Batman look kind of mad and say, "My 2 rules are no guns and no killing." Or some variation of those lines. He just needs to reiterate that he has 2 rules. Bada bing, bada boom. You know that he's never killed before. You don't need to explain it any more than that. Now you might be thinking, "But Juice, I had no problem with Batman killing. I thought it was kind of cool." I had no issue with it either, but the DCEU is trying to go in a new direction where they're bringing hope back to their characters. They're making their characters be exactly what they are in the comic books. And in the comic books, Batman doesn't kill. Much like the way they just changed Superman in Justice League, they made him a beacon of hope again. He wasn't really that in the 2 previous films, in Man of Steel or Batman v Superman. He wasn't that at all. He was just like kind of like a depressing Superman, but they made him hopeful again in Justice League. By doing this in Flashpoint, you could bring Batman back to his core values, which is no killing and no guns. The third reason why the Flashpoint movie is a good idea is you can actually introduce a lot of new characters without having to really introduce them. In the current DCEU, all we know right now is the Justice League is comprised of Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, right? In Flashpoint, you could actually do something as crazy as the Justice League United. I know, you're probably like, what? But hear me out. So right now, in the current universe that we have, we know that Batman is going to try to build like the Hall of Justice at Wayne Manor, which I thought was a really stupid thing to do. But you know that. He's gonna remodel Wayne Manor, and he's gonna put a big table in there with 6 chairs and room for more. But with that being kind of a dumb idea, Flashpoint can change it to where there's an actual Hall of Justice and has the freaking teleporter that goes up to the tower aka the Watchtower. And if you introduce both of those things just with Flashpoint, you could have so many other characters working in both of those areas. The cool thing about it is you don't even need to show any new characters. All you need to do is have a whole crap load of Easter eggs. You go to the Hall of Justice, you can see a bunch of villains they fought, or you can actually show just like memorabilia from other characters. You go to the Watchtower, you can introduce somebody like Mr. Terrific working alongside Cyborg, and Cyborg's like, yeah, we have the team out in so-and-so area, and bada bing, bada boom, you're just introducing a whole team of characters. This also kind of sets up other characters just appearing in other movies because you know the timelines change now, so you can say that all of these other characters have already existed. Of course, people, the general audience that doesn't really know about comic books, are going to want to know a little bit something about these characters, so when you do bring them into a movie, you got to show a little bit of backstory so they get who that character is. That's not an issue. And I think that solves a fundamental issue with the DCEU of them trying to cram so many characters into one movie and then trying to make it make sense of how they come together and why, you know, they would work together and all that stuff. With this, you could just introduce it all at once and it wouldn't be an issue. Moving on to number 2 on this list, retconning the DCEU. And this is basically rebooting it without having to reboot it. So basically what we did with Batman, you can do with every other character in the DCEU. You can make Superman always hopeful. He was never that kind of depressing Superman that we had in BVS. With this, you could actually bring people back from the dead like Jonathan Kent, who a lot of people thought was kind of stupid that Superman would just let his father die in a tornado when he could have saved him in like a second. You could actually just bring him back that he never died at all, and Superman grew up with both of his parents, and that's why he's this hopeful character, because he had a father his whole life. Although he technically did have him for a really long time anyways, but still, he would still have his father to guide him throughout life, and that's why he would always be this hopeful character. You could fix the Wonder Woman not fighting for over 100 years issue. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Wonder Woman stopped fighting after Steve Trevor and didn't come back until BVS, which is about a 100-year time span. Bruce Wayne even mentions how she went into hiding basically in Justice League, and she should have been the beacon of hope that Superman was. So with Flashpoint, you could have Wonder Woman fighting over that 100 years. Whether you want her to be that beacon of hope over that time span, or she does it secretly for like maybe the government or something, it would just feel a bit more believable that Wonder Woman would actually engage in a lot of the other craziness that happens throughout those 100 years, instead of just sitting by and doing nothing. Speaking of Wonder Woman and bringing people back, you could actually bring back Steve Trevor. You could showcase that that was her love of her life for a really long time before he died of old age or whatever. You know, if you want to have another movie in like the 60s or whatever, you can bring back Steve Trevor's character and he's not dead anymore. Bada bing, bada boom, that kind of fixes that problem. So I hope you get what I'm saying here. You could basically correct all of the things that people had issues with previously. You could fix them all with Flashpoint. But I will say the only downside to retconning the DCEU is you are basically just eradicating the Zack Snyderverse. So anything you liked from the Zack Snyder movies would basically be gone. I don't think they'd erase everything, but all of the craziness he did with like maybe a badass Superman or a badass Batman that killed and stuff, those kind of decisions would be gone. But they might keep the aesthetic of like a very hardcore Batman beating up people. He just wouldn't kill them. Number 1 is fix the Joker. Now this kind of ties into number 2 as well, but you could fix Jared Leto's Joker. The reason why I gave this the number 1 spot and didn't include it in number 2 is because this is huge, guys. Like, a lot of people had issues with Jared Leto's Joker. I personally was not a fan of him. There was a lot of stuff I didn't like in Suicide Squad that was done, but you could fix it with Flashpoint, specifically the Joker and a little bit of Harley Quinn. I did really like Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn, although get rid of the tattoos. I don't want to see rotten on the side of her face. Get rid of all that. Going back to the Joker though, you could get rid of all the tattoos. Now I do know a lot of you guys are thinking right now, because you're huge Gotham fans and you're in love with Cameron Monaghan, you're just like, oh my god, you can recast Jared Leto's freaking Joker to the Cameron Monaghan Joker, like, oh my god, it's the best Joker ever. No, you don't need to recast Jared Leto, and I know a lot of people think his Joker is the worst, and I would agree with you. I don't think he did a great job as the Joker, but I will stick by what I've said a million times on this channel, and that is, I think it wasn't his acting that was bad, it was his direction that was bad. Because Jared Leto is an amazing actor, but an actor is only going to go as far as their script and their director allow. With Suicide Squad, we know that both of those are bad, but like I said, with Flashpoint, you can actually go ahead and redo everything about that whole movie if you wanted to. You can erase that movie from existence, but you could make a better Joker with Jared Leto at the helm. I think you just need to reel him in a little bit. You don't need to give him 100% creative freedom. And I know a lot of people don't want to copy other people like Heath Ledger or, you know, Mark Hamill or any other Joker that's been previous to them. I know everybody wants to try to make it their own, but sometimes going too outside the box can be a bad thing, and I think that's what happened here with Jared Leto. You get rid of all the tattoos, you make him go for the crazy Joker, not this gangster, I'm a lion Joker where he purrs. And tries to be poetic with, you know, these words that he's saying about whatever the hell he was talking about, where the freaking vat was at. I don't even, that scene was terrible. You reset that core values of the Joker and you just tell Jared Leto to do that. You tell him the only thing the Joker cares about is making Batman break his one rule. You tell him that his true love is Batman, nothing else. You have him not be in love with Harley Quinn 90% of the time, and then just 10% of those times is just to reel her back in because, you know, he doesn't want to lose her, but at the same time he doesn't care about her. You show that side of the Joker and then show the craziness that is the Joker. Have him blow up buildings, have him just shoot random people, have him do like a television comedy skit, you know, just have him be the Joker. You just need to change him up. You could change up his face too, like since we're gonna get rid of the tattoos, maybe give him some better lip line, give him some scars or something if you want to do that. There was a rendering way back in the day of some fan art of Jared Leto before he even showed the first picture that I thought would have been an amazing Joker if they had done that. Or back in the day, I always had a theory that they could just have like the Joker want to change himself because, you know, he just likes to do that. And you could have went with the Endgame storyline and maybe he bleaches all of his tattoos off or he gets rid of all of them and then, you know, he changes his face and he changes his hairstyle because Jared Leto already had the Endgame haircut and I thought that's the Joker they were going to go with. But, you know, they went with that weird looking one that not very many people like. And that's pretty much it. You could fix the Joker with the Flashpoint movie. So those are my 4 reasons why the Flashpoint movie is actually a good idea. Anyways, guys, hopefully you liked that video. Make sure to check out part 1 right here or check out a previous video right here. Do hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed today's content. As always, I'm your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. Have I had my daily dose of juice? See you guys next time.